So I was out here doing an oil change on the car today. Now is as good a time as ever to go ahead and replace this intake gasket for our idle adjustment under here because I think it's still causing a vacuum leak. I'm still only getting about 18 miles to the gallon average in this car between mostly city driving. I would say it's a little better on highway, but not much. We gotta do something about that. That's not okay. It might be bad on gas, but it is cheaper than a car payment. And car payment insurance. Yuck. No thank you. Okay, let's go get some tools. Looks like we're gonna need a 13 millimeter, a flathead, and something to get these clips off here for our throttle. Let's start with this throttle linkage. It looks like, yeah, it's just a little clip that pushes off. But make sure you use two hands pushing that off. You do not want to lose that piece. So this is just a little clip that pops upward, and then, oh, it broke. Cool. And then I guess you can just pop this off. Yeah. All right. Next, let's get this flathead off down here for our band clamp that's holding our intake boot on. We're going to go ahead and pull these two vacuum lines off as well. Two vacuum lines on the top are now disconnected. Here goes our intake boot. Looks like I have to pull this hose before it will allow it to move off of our throttle body. Like that. Oh, come on, get off there. There we go, two hands. Let's put some penetrant fluid on these three bolts up here to help them move off up there. The third one is down underneath here. It's just really hard to see. Oh, okay. Now, something else I like to do is just break them loose. Just give them like a half a turn. If you move them all the way off, you're putting a lot of stress on whichever bolts are still tight. So I like to only break them loose and then go to town, taking them all the way off. Let's see, back there is our third bolt. There we go. Now let's get these off there. Whatever you do, don't lose these bolts. Don't lose your washers that sit behind there either. There is an electrical connection down here also on our throttle position sensor that has to be removed before you go and start pulling your intake off. I almost forgot about it. See, our intake's totally loose now. But the way you get this plug off is push on the top of it right here. There's a little wire that sticks out that kind of works as like a button. So we push it and then pull and pull and wiggle. And you're gonna need two hands. You should probably pull this before you pull your intake off, but looks like I have no option. Okay. Whatever. Pull this. Let's take that wire plug off like this. See? There's the wire I was talking about. Push it in and then wiggle gently. Take that connector off. There we go. And there's your throttle body. Yay. Looks like we have a little bit of oil coming from our flame trap PCV, which reminds me, that's part of why I'm pulling this off, is to replace the flame trap as well. And the only way to get to it pretty much is by pulling your throttle body. But I had to pull my throttle body anyways because this gasket here was bad, remember, for our idle adjustment. So let's go ahead and get that flame trap off of there, I guess. First, let's see if this gasket will come off clean. It's coming. There we go. Nice. Came off clean and in one piece. That means I don't have to scrape down here probably. I'm still going to clean up this surface as best I can before putting a new one on, but nice. So this right here is your flame trap. It sits down underneath the intake, connected to the engine block, and it's pretty hard to reach. That's why most people do this when they pull off the intake. You can do it without pulling off your intake, it's just much harder. It has to do with ventilation of the crankcase system and circulating it back into your intake. If you look on our new one, there's a fine copper filament there that acts as a type of filter, right? And keeps a certain amount of that oil in the crankcase, I suppose. And then, if you look at the one that was on there, there is nothing. There was nothing in place of that, and that could have something to do with our bad gas mileage. So, let's go ahead and put this in and see if that helps us. I can't even get the camera in place to show you where it is, but basically, stick your hand down underneath here, into here, and then it's the piece that this hose is connected to running off the back of the intake. That runs to your flame trap. So let's put this in place with along with our new rubber boot to get better sealing, right? And no vacuum leaks. You probably should replace this vacuum line while you're doing this also, but I already know that this wasn't leaking and the hose seems fine, no cracks, so I'm putting it back together. Now the way that you install it is with the small hose facing the engine block. This bottom section fits onto the plastic piece coming out from the block. So we fish it in down here, find that outlet, and once you have it on all the way down and pushed on, you need to reconnect this vacuum line off the back of your intake. Oh good, you can barely see where I'm working from the top. So here is our flame trap installed. See, it's on a rubber piece that goes into the block. Now we have to connect this piece. You can see down here, this is where I tried doing a temporary repair with gasket. But right there, we're missing some gasket. That folded in and is causing a really bad vacuum leak. Now, when you have your intake off, make sure that you use some... I like to use MAF cleaner because it won't damage our throttle position sensor. I like to leave this on because it is set in a particular place, and it's kind of a pain to adjust it and set it correctly if you pull it off. Now you can see the oil stain and stuff down there. We need to clean up our throttle body real good before we put it back on. Also, I'm going to take a whetstone or some really light sandpaper, clean off any gasket material that is left, and flatten this really good. Same with this surface down here that it mates onto. We need to clean that up with some light sandpaper probably to get all that old gasket material off. Now when it comes to cleaning up your throttle body, what you want to do, what I like to do, is use MAF cleaner. This way you make sure you don't damage your throttle position sensor. Spray it in the end, clean it with Scotch-Brite and then a cloth, and also make sure that you open up the throttle. See how black it is right there? You can already see just the difference a little cleaning is done. But make sure you open it up and clean where the throttle plate contacts the aluminum housing on both sides really well. Also down here, I'm just going to take off these two Allen keys to remove our idle adjustment. I'm not going to move it at all. I'm just going to take this off and replace that gasket. See right there, our whole gasket had folded in, and that was all one big vacuum leak. The surface looks pretty clean though, not bad. I'm actually going to use a whetstone to clean these surfaces off, make sure they're flat, no contaminants or nothing rising up. To do that, just get a whetstone and some WD-40. PB Blaster works too. And then just press it down, spin in little circles. Go. Let's take off all this old gasket as well. This is just some 400 grit sandpaper that I'm using. Just something very soft, but it'll take off anything that is there. Now, if I wasn't in a time crunch, I would take both of these and put them in the ultrasonic cleaner after I remove the throttle position sensor. But I have to have this together tonight and ready to drive tomorrow. So we're doing just the gasket leak right now. We're going to replace and clean the throttle body as well. See that dark ring there? That's after I clean it just with one pass of the Scotch-Brite. It's already better. Gotta do a little more though. And there we go. I'm calling that good enough. It's what's on the inside that counts, you know? Over here on the intake, I got this surface pretty clean with Scotch-Brite, knocked off all the remaining gasket material that was there. And then here is our new gasket, both the throttle body gasket and the idle adjustment gasket. They'll go right here. Since this is not very flat, just to make sure it seals as best as it can, I'm going to use a little bit of this silicone, the fuel-resistant gasket maker. Just a very thin layer on this goes a long way. And then here's our throttle body, all cleaned up. This surface is cleaned up as well. I also cleaned inside of here. It's a good idea to spray some MAF cleaner into these as well and poke something through and clean both of them. I had to use a small piece of wire on this one because the hole is not straight with this hole. It's actually over here. So let's get that on, get this on, and then I have to let this sit for overnight before it actually bonds all the way and I can start the car again. Another thing that's a good idea when doing your flame trap or anything intake related, hold the negative terminal on the battery and at least leave it off for about an hour so that your ECU will reset. And then whenever you hook it back up, it'll run those diagnostic tests again and it'll realize it's running differently than before and hopefully give us better gas mileage. There we go. Got our idle adjustment put back on. Now for our intake gasket. You're being so helpful right now. Okay, so now that we have our throttle body on, we're going to want to connect our linkages, right? That's the next thing. We take this piece, swing it around like that, and then it goes back onto this little ball. Oh, there we go. Now with this silicone sealant, you're actually supposed to put all the bolts on snug and then wait 12 hours and then tighten them down. So I'm going to actually do that because I can still access these tomorrow. But now that we're here, I'm going to go ahead and reconnect this electrical plug like so. There we go. I'm going to put our boot back on right here.
No, we're not going under there without Daddy.
There we go. Hook up this vacuum line and hook up that vacuum line. Tighten down the bolt holding our intake on. And then we're going to put this hose back on, which runs to the flame box down below. Okay. Check, 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 and check. Flame box, everything's back together. Throttle is, gentle.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, gentle on the outside of the car, please.
Don't touch that part.
Throttle body's all moving. That seems good. I may lubricate this right here a little. So it's the next day here, and now that this gasket has had overnight to sit and settle while these bolts were just snugged up, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up the rest of the way. Also, I'm going to go ahead and put on our battery terminal. Well, it's still not the best idle, but it does seem to be running better since I did all the intake work and the flame trap. We'll try driving it and see if our fuel economy improves.